attorney here. Everybody, they just Andy Witt. Yeah, constitutional attorney. There he is.
Oh, he's right behind you. He's.
Like not all rules you need passed through, but this one.
Are you familiar with the Alabama channel?
Yeah. That's I just heard that. Yeah, they'll be able to grab it.
Yeah. We got our friend out here.
Oh yeah. Well, I think there's going to be one more on this one.
Who would I know?
That's from ADF, Alliance Defending.
I was about to say, that's from what?
Defending Freedom.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm finding out if there's one more after her.
Okay, all right. And this is for which one?
No, that one's finished. This one is Scott.
Oh, 246. Okay, yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Got some
I'll be so glad for them. They are.
Issue, but just in case anyone asks, I included a copy of the exact actions we took on 342 last time, because we went ahead and put those two amendments on there. Yeah, but, I mean, they want to mention it anyway. I mentioned it in the email, but in case anyone asks who made that motion, you have it all.
Okay, thank you, Adam. Adam, I kind of like seeing this piece of paper. Like knowing that we can track all this. Yeah.
It's very rare, and I think no, but what is we didn't become gay because we saw pride flag. But now we're address the real issues in our life. This is not, we are not just I'm just like this.
I voted for yours.
Yes, we were.
That one you don't know, folks.
I want to welcome everyone to Education Policy Committee. I want to apologize that we are running a little late. Some of our meetings have lasted a little bit longer, but I want to thank you for being here today. And I'm going to open us in prayer today, so please bow with me. Father, I come to you and I just thank you. I thank you for the privilege of serving the people of Alabama. I thank you for this committee that truly works so hard and deliberates over every side of all of the bills that we talk about. And so now I ask that you would let our thoughts and our hearts, the meditations of our mind, everything that we do, let it be something that honors you. We thank you for a moment to just be still and be quiet and be in your presence. And we ask that you would be with us this day. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Representative Collins.
Here.
Representative Baker.
Here.
Representative Drummond. Here. Representative Daniels. Representative DuBose. Representative Estes. Here. Representative Fincher. Here. Representative Gidley. Here. Representative Gray. Here. Representative Morris. Here. Representative Paramore. Representative Pascal. Representative Ross. Representative Smith. Here. Representative Woods. A quorum is present.
Thank you very much. I believe we have some people with guests. If you have a guest, if you'll let me know. Representative DuBose. Welcome, Sarah. Any other guests? Representative Gidley. Thank you. Welcome. Are there any others? Today's calendar and agenda are, everyone feels very passionate on every side of these issues. And I want to thank you for that. I want to thank this committee that works hard on different issues. I know the first bill, we've had public hearing and we've had several debates on it and taken amendments. And so we're just going to go one at a time. We did get a late sub as of late yesterday on one of the bills. And so I'll just let that bill be the choice of the committee if we vote on that bill or not today. And so we will not be voting on public hearing bills today. And I just wanted to let people know where we were at this moment in time. So first up, we'll call House Bill 342, Representative DuBose.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and thank you all for listening to me again on this very important religious release bill. Thank you all for being here in the audience as well. And I know we've had a lot of conversations regarding this bill, so I'm just going to quickly outline a few of the issues. This religious timed release was ruled constitutional in 1952 by the Supreme Court, and it has been popular throughout the country in the decades ever since. With the amendments that we voted on last week that were unanimously approved, we have made sure our local districts maintain control. Credits are optional. That will be decided by the school district. Policy and details of the program are within local control. That was in the Second Amendment that we passed unanimously last week. For example, in my city of Hoover, they've decided that religious release will be allowed only at the high school level, an 8th period, which is a specials period. Safeguards are provided by guidelines of the Supreme Court and any local policy guidelines the district may want to add. Parents are required to sign an authorization. Nonprofits are required to accept liability. Nonprofit faith-based entities must provide transportation. Instruction must be off public property. No public funds may be used. And additional safeguards can be implemented by any of our locals. For example, background checks, checking for insurance, anything the district determines that they feel will keep their students safe. 14 states, including Tennessee, Florida, and most recently Kentucky, have moved from may to shall implement a policy with bipartisan support and in many cases, unanimous support. Thank you all for hearing me out, and thank you for your support of this important piece of legislation.
Are there any questions? Representative Morris.
Thank you. So this is not going to cost the state anything with this?
No. This is totally funded by the private faith-based entity.
So later, let's say we have enough schools that adopt into it. Would it further down the line require, because we have enough students adopt into it, that this would be some kind of pathway for the state to have to fund this?
No, it cannot. It is in law by the Supreme Court. It cannot be publicly funded. May not be.
Okay, I was just asking because it was like I received so much
I know
about this bill, and I was just trying to see.
Well, that's
exactly
important question.
Where it.
That's an important question. It's important to clarify. This may not be. No public funds may be used for this program.
Okay, so but why are we going from from may to shall? Like, what is the reason behind that? Because there's already a process implemented now. So why are we going from the schools may to the schools shall?
Yes, thank you. Very good question. So since we passed the legislation that allowed the districts to may implement a policy, we've actually only had 12 districts in our whole state implement a policy. 12 out of the over 130 school districts that we have. We know there is a demand from parents for this program. We've had over 4,000 parent signatures that want this program in districts that currently do not have a program. We don't feel like parents should have to go and fight the school board for a program that's legislatively or that's constitutionally allowed by the U.S. Supreme Court. And also, we also still have the flexibility for the local district to actually implement whatever policy they want about when this fits within their curriculum. For example, I gave the example of Spain Park where my kids went, where they just chose to do it in 8th period. In some of the elementary schools, we have seen where they've just chosen to do it in grades 4 through 6, so they don't interfere with the Literacy Act requirements. So school districts and even schools within the district can implement the policy as best fits for them. But we think there's a parent demand, and we think that there's school systems that are not providing or not meeting that demand.
Okay, so this my last one. So if you are in elementary, this is my hang up, because if you have to go to recess, because I was told that this could be during recess time, and the school curriculum, the school hours hadn't changed, but we keep sticking things into the class time. So if you got 30 minutes for recess, a teacher in elementary will actually have to take the time out to walk that one student down before they can even address the other students, which may take about 10 minutes out of their time. If they have 30 minutes, do you think that would be unfair to the other kids that's inside the class that's getting ready for recess?
Yeah, I mean, if you just have a 30-minute segment of time, I would say it's not going to fit. So the school system has to decide what fits within their schedule. Maybe it's just the block when they have music or art, but that school system would have to make that decision.
So if the school system made a decision to say that it's not going to fit, but this is saying that they have to do it, but they already made a decision that it's not going to fit, we just going to force them to put policy together to make it fit. You don't have to answer that.
Well, I'll answer that. I could just say that maybe that school system decides just to do it at high school level. Okay. That's what Hoover did.
That's fine, but I have a small hang up. And at the proper time, I would like to ask for a roll call.
Representative Smith.
Yes, I appreciate the debate we've had about this and the work that's gone into this and the passions that are felt about this. One thing I heard today, though, in your introduction that did kind of catch my attention was you used the term that this would be off campus. Mm-hmm. And if that off campus is in this bill, currently we've got schools who have these type organizations on campus. Are we setting a precedence that we're going to say all of this has to be off campus?
I don't know which program that you're talking about that's on campus, but the specific religious release program that was ruled constitutional by the U.S. Supreme Court is off campus. No public funds used.
Well, we have school systems that have on campus with no funds being used currently.
You're talking about like first priority and that kind of thing.
First priority.
And that's a separate program.
If you've got a block schedule and you're teaching elective courses like Bible and those kind of things in public schools, this seems to open the door to say, well, all that needs to be off campus.
No, this is separate. This is during the school hour, okay. 8 to 3. Non-priority or first priority that I'm aware of is before school, after school, and that's a different program. That's not underneath the Religious Release Act.
But it's on campus.
That is, yeah, it's a different program.
Representative Pascal.
Representative DuBose, thank you for your amendment. I know we had talked for a while. We have had a public hearing, and I want to thank you for your willingness to continue the dialogue. But I think your amendments address majority of my concerns I had in my district, which is local control.
Okay.
So I just want to thank you for your continued work and your ability to slow things down. I think we needed that. We needed that spring break there. So, Madam Chair, at the appropriate time, I'd like to move for a favorable report.
We have a motion for a favorable report by Representative Pascal and a second by Representative Gidley. And Representative Baker still has a question.
Representative DuBose, I'd commented before that I was not familiar about this program at all until your bill arose, and was somewhat pleasantly surprised and amazed about the program, and actually glad to see that what we have in motion right now then is working. That is that every single public school across the state has the opportunity to engage in this program as it is right now, correct?
they had the opportunity to engage, but only 12 of them are actually engaging. So I have a difference of opinion as to whether it's working or not.
Oh, okay. And now, how long has this program been available?
2019 in the state of Alabama.
Okay, so that's rather new, I would say. So, I mean, I'm saying overall in this grand scheme of things, seems rather new. So to me, in the eyes of some, it could be, well, the 12 is working, it's going well, it's actually ahead of schedule. In the eyes of others, then it could be that, no, we're not where we want to be on that. There are already some programs that exist in the schools and all, and to varying degrees, so whether it be devotion or whether it be actual sort of religious instruction. I was glad that one of the last stops in my education career was at Tierra High School, and to start an FCA chapter there, which we had our meetings before school and all and such, so strictly voluntary for the students that want to participate and such. So with that, I'm a little bit troubled in that I hear that now that the bill has been modified so that there's local control, that yet this maybe is a little bit what Representative Morris was alluding to, and that is, so of those systems that have made a decision not to adopt a policy for this, then under your bill, would they be required to adopt a policy?
Well, I don't know that they've made a conscious decision to not adopt a policy. They just haven't adopted a policy, and then this will require them to make a policy, their own policy, which is what we do as members of the Ed Policy Committee in the legislature, is ask school boards to adopt policy. For example, the Literacy Act, quite a detailed policy with very little room for discretion, yet this one is open-ended. We're just saying adopt a policy. So this is probably one of the most open-ended policies that our school districts have ever been asked to adopt.
Yeah, I recognize there could be some school systems that have not adopted policy for whatever reason, but then again, I also recognize there are probably some school systems that already have been approached about this, and they have made a conscious decision not to adopt a policy. So under that, it seems to go contrary to what you're suggesting, that there's local control, because this bill would require them, even if they've made a conscious, calculated decision by the local authorities that they don't want to adopt a policy. They feel like they may, as I mentioned before, it could be that they really value the instructional time. Not to say that this is not worthy, but just not maybe during the confines of the school day, that they want this going on in their particular
I understand
school system.
your point, but it's also disturbing to think that religious liberty that's been constitutionally upheld by the Supreme Court would be limited to a school that doesn't really work to even try to fit it in. I believe the answer to religious liberty is more religious liberty, not less, not stifling it. So I would ask those schools to consider to find a spot for it.
Right, and I think along that lines, though, that goes back to what I said originally, even like a group like the FCA. It is done outside the confines of the school
And I admire
day.
those groups. And like I said, I think the answer is more religious liberty, not less.
And so I think that's part of the problem, seems to be with some of these systems that may have consciously made a decision not to engage in this during the school day, is they really greatly value the instructional time during the school day. We hear that quite often with the testing, with the documentation. We need more instructional time. And so I think some of those, the local areas have made that decision based on that. So anyway, I do have concerns then that although it seems to be inferred or maybe implied that there is local control, to me it doesn't seem that that actually is the case, because this would require, even though those systems that might have already made that decision not to engage in this program during their school hours, then would be forced to do so under that policy. You also mentioned about the 4,000 across the state. We look at roughly the population, maybe 4.5 to 5 million people in the state of Alabama. And you take that 4,000, you look at the roughly 150 school systems, including the independent public schools and charter schools that are part of the public system. And the 4,000, you begin to look at that in the number of students and the parents thereof across the state. And the 4,000, I don't mean to suggest, well, that's not a healthy number by any means. But actually, I think if you look at that, then per system, it may be that it's actually just, more of a handful that actually are trying to push. And I'm not saying that there's not a group, but this would be the decision then of the local authorities to make that decision based on the feedback they're getting from the people within their community, and not just a general survey across the entire state. I also would wonder then, are those of those that have signed the petition, were those public school parents or private school parents?
I can't answer that question.
All right.
I'm just telling you that there's a desire of parents out there, and it's not going to get. You need parental support. We talked about this before.
Right,
You have to have parental support. You have to have nonprofit engagement that has the funds to actually do it, and then you have to work with the local school board to be able to come up with schedules. So there's a lot of interacting parts that have to go in.
In concluding, I thank you then for bringing to my awareness that there is such a program across the state that seems to be working well to allow for religious instruction in the schools now. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you,
Representative Ross.
Put into this. I do have some questions. First of all, you said 2019.
Yes.
That COVID soon hit us.
Mm-hmm.
So have we had an opportunity to really see how the May bill could work since COVID?
I mean,
could that be a possibility that maybe that could be the reason that we've not had more people participating in it? And my other question is this, and you can answer both of them. When you talk about being able to make their own plans and it's local, what if it doesn't fit? I think someone else made the point that how long does it take for a child to go from class down the hall to get into a vehicle, drive somewhere for instruction? And before I go any further, I absolutely support religious education and instruction.
Yes, I'm aware of that. I appreciate that.
Absolutely, without a doubt. They drive to wherever this instruction's being held. How long are they going to have before they have to get back in the vehicle, drive to where they're going, walk back down the hall, and go to their class? I have an issue with the practical, the technical implementation of this. Besides, I feel like in my district, I've been made aware from the people that would have to be implementing this, that it's just another regulation for them. They're doing the best they can. They're already providing for students the best they can for this particular issue. I think one of my superintendents even let a child leave for ballet class for credit.
Wow.
For PE credit. Yeah. So, it is all local, and we have to vote local. And but I do appreciate the work. I appreciate the concept. I taught Sunday school for 25 years.
Yes.
And I prayed in classrooms when I probably could have been arrested for it. So there you go.
Well, yeah, thank you for your comments. Thank you for making those comments. This program is extremely popular. It works nationwide. More than half our states participate in this. Will every single student be able to fit it in their schedule? No. Will some students be able to fit it in their schedule? Yes. And we want to give those students an opportunity. My goodness, if you give somebody the opportunity to leave for ballet class, can we give them the opportunity to leave for a constitutionally allowed by the U.S. Supreme Court religious class? That would be, and that's what we're asking them to do. And so just to address your transportation issues, yes, time is of the essence. So it's important that these take place at a very close something very close proximity to the school. It could be a church. It could be an office building. The faith-based entity would provide transportation. They have buses or shuttles, and they partner with people that will provide this transportation. They have volunteers that, help the kids get on the bus, help keep things moving. Time is of the essence. We have even some nonprofit agencies across the state that come with a bus where the students can actually go on the bus, one of these buses that have all the educational, it's decked out as an educational bus. So there's a lot, the free market can come up with a lot of different ways that this can be implemented.
Representative Drummond, I also want to remind us we've still got a full agenda and we started late and there's a committee hearing after hours. Thank you, Representative Drummond.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. And I want to thank the sponsor for talking to me. And I guess I didn't have any questions until she began to speak. So I have a little few. If you go to the amendment, because I'm in one of those 12 school districts where we're doing it.
Yeah.
And it's working under the May. Mm-hmm. But in the amendment on page 1, the amendment, if you would look at it where it said nothing in this act may be
I got it.
construed
Yes, ma'am.
to limit the authority of the local boards. Define what you mean by construed and that their authority, because I'm sitting here listening to you, even though, and you know, I told you I thank you for taking the first, putting the may back in on the first one, but the second one you didn't, and this is the one that I had a problem with. But tell me, how do you envision that this local board will operate if I'm doing it, so I'm already a part of the programming. But for those small systems out there, and they decide that they don't have the capacity or the wherewithal to be able to do this, what will happen to them?
Well,
I mean, that's their.
yeah, they have.
They
we're
still
just saying
have
may be
authority,
construed
right?
to limit the authority of the local school boards. They can make this as narrow or broad as they want. They can. The school board may say, "I need each elementary school to make their own policy," or they may do what Hoover again. What I'm telling you, what Hoover did. They only have it in the high school. Their local elementary schools don't do it. They just do it in the high school 8th period. So this just clarifies that the local boards have the authority to make this as limited or broad as they want according to what fits with their school system and their school schedules. It could be the same for every school. It could be different. They have complete, I just want to let them know we're not telling you how to do this.
But what if they don't have the capacity or the wherewithal to do it at all? What happens to them?
Well, they come up with a policy that says exactly that. I mean, they like I said, this can be as narrow or as wide as they need.
But it's still going to require that they have to do it. I mean, because
It's going to require that they have a policy.
So they can have a policy to say we do nothing?
Well, I mean, I'm not saying that I'm suggesting
but is that the word construed? I mean, is that I'm just looking at this.
I'm not suggesting they have a policy that says they do nothing, but legally they probably, they can get creative with their policy.
Because I'm like Representative Ross. I've been praying so much since I've been in the legislature. I'm so close to God. I have actually
I have become
I certainly believe in religious education, but I believe when you talked about parents, I really am a big proponent of parents exposing their children to religion.
And parents are a very important part of this. I mean, they have to fully authorize for their children to participate. I mean, this takes parents, takes a nonprofit entity, and it takes the school working with them to find a time when it may work.
Well, I got more questions when my chair looked at me, so I'll be obedient.
I understand. I've seen that look.
Well, I appreciate the discussion on this. We have a motion. We have a second. We had a request for roll call. I don't hear a second. A second by Anthony, Representative Daniels. And so I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Representative Collins.
No.
Representative Baker.
No.
Representative Drummond. Representative Daniels.
No.
Representative DuBose.
Yes.
Representative Estes.
No.
Representative Fincher.
Yes.
Representative Gidley. Representative Gray.
No.
Representative Morris. Representative Paramore. Representative Pascal. Representative Ross. Representative Smith. Representative Woods. 4 yeas, 9 nays, 2 abstentions.
I want to thank the sponsor.
Thank you
for all the work that you did on this bill.
Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you. Next, I'm going to call out House Bill 178.
Good afternoon, committee, Madam Chair, and all of our wonderful guests that are in the chamber today. House Bill 178, and want to let me get
Representative Gidley, while you're getting your papers together, I do want to remind you that we still have 3 more bills. One of them is yours.
So don't preach, right?
Correct.
I understood that. I read between the lines. I did. Okay, what we have here, this bill, and many of you that heard the governor in her State of the State address, that one of the things she stated, was putting the Ten Commandments back in our schools. This bill would accomplish that, putting the Ten Commandments back in the school. Let me reiterate here, this is not necessarily about putting the Ten Commandments back in the school. It's about returning something that's been removed. Part of our foundational, historical landmarks and pillars of our country that were instrumental in the founding of our country, and is recorded, recognized, used, mentioned numerous times throughout the course of our country, and was part of our culture until just a few decades ago. Let me talk to you about the bill quickly. The bill, first of all, does not require any fiscal note on the school systems. This is definitely, it's defined clearly in this bill that this will be paid for with private funds. So there is no physical note on the schools. This also is to be classified as a part of the historical foundation of our nation in the schools. And also, Madam Chair, I have a sub, and I would like to explain that sub if I have an opportunity to do that.
Do I hear anybody that would like to offer the substitute bill that you got last night? Representative Gidley's made a motion to adopt the sub.
It's Representative Pascal.
Pascal has made a motion. Thank you.
I know we favor, but.
You do. I often interchange the two of you. Representative Pascal has made a motion to adopt the sub. Do I hear a second? Second by Representative Morris. All in favor of adopting the sub, say aye. Any opposed? Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me explain the sub. As I mentioned, this was part of the thing that the governor mentioned in her package of things she wanted done. So we worked with the governor's office, and they brought a substitute. My bill, the first bill, only required or asked for Ten Commandments to be placed in a strategic location in the school. But because of its historical context, the substitute adds that is placed in the classroom where American history is taught. This not only this accomplishes a very important thing that is laid out by the Alabama School Board or Alabama curriculum, State Board of Education curriculum, which states social studies education in Alabama aims to prepare students to become knowledgeable, engaged, and responsible citizens in society. Social studies reflects the achievements, struggles, interactions. Goes on to say the disciplines of social studies, but are not limited to anthropology, archaeology, civics, economics, geography, government, history, philosophy, psychology, religion, and sociology. So this brings the Ten Commandments in a strategic place, but also in that historical setting that places it in that place where the history of America will be taught, placing it alongside other historical documents such as the Constitution, the Magna Carta, the Mayflower Complex, whatever, reiterating its historical, the historical aspect of the Ten Commandments in the founding of our country, in the laying of the foundation of our country, as one of the pillars that our founders used to derive the very government we have. Once again, let me stress that there is no fiscal note to this. Also, in 2018, Alabama passed a constitutional amendment concerning the Ten Commandments in schools. That has not been implemented. This bill now would place it in law that this would be implemented in our schools. On that note, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative Gidley.
Thank you. Don't tell my church I can talk that short, please.
Are there any questions?
I'd like to move for a favorable review.
Favorable report is moved by Representative DuBose. Do I hear a second? Second by Representative Estes. Are there any questions or thoughts? Representative Daniels.
All right, Representative, you said that this will be paid for privately?
Yes.
And since it's, what entity will be paying for this?
Well, that's where part of the school board and part of the public is going to be responsible in making sure that we find entities that will step up to the plate and provide the funding for this. It's just the main part of that was to make sure we did not place any kind of financial burden upon our school systems. Okay, so it'll be up to the local. It'll be up to people in the community. It'll be up to the school board to ask for donations and make sure that people are aware that this is not paid for with school dollars, but with private donations. I've already had one entity that's already mentioned the possibility of donating a large amount. I won't say who that is, to make sure these are done.
Yeah, because I see if it's going to be a requirement, then there obviously has to be consequences if you don't get it paid for. But you're saying that the school system will have to seek private support in order to get.
They can get private support. It'll be up to the community as well to make sure we step up to the plate to help provide that private support. Now, since there is no physical responsibility of the school, then I don't think they could help responsible while they're raising the funds or while somebody's coming forward. So I don't think there'll be any impact back on the schools while those funds are coming in.
Well, I think that's something that needs to be reflected in legislation if, in fact, they don't do it. Because right now, if it's a requirement, I don't know how you not get it done. And so it's not an optional requirement. But I think for me, we just have to need. Okay. And it looks like it goes to higher ed, doesn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
it does include our K-12 and our higher ed, yes.
Okay, yeah. I guess for me, I just don't understand how you can require some and then expect the school system, who's already struggling for funds anyway, to then go out and solicit and try to find supporters to pay for this to be displayed in their school.
Based on the support that I'm hearing, whatever, I don't think that's going to be a problem. Can't say that for sure, but I don't think it's going to be, Representative Daniels.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Representative Paramore.
Yeah, forgive me for not studying it a little bit harder than I did yesterday, but this includes all your public colleges and universities?
It does.
All right. I can understand in K through 12 a prominent place, and then in the classroom where government or history is being taught. But I know at the institution in my district, there's a whole building full of classrooms that teach government and history. Are you requiring it to be in all 20 classrooms and 4 floors of that one building? Or maybe in a prominent place in that building as well, one location?
I would, and this is, when I originally did the bill, it stated every classroom. That was an overkill, and I realized that, and I made that change because I realized that was going to be an overextension of something that would be almost impossible to carry out. I would say if you had an entire building, this is me, that was dedicated to, I would say a place in that building, in a prominent place, would suffice for that.
Okay, do we need an amendment that specifies that?
I don't know.
I mean,
I'll refer that to Madam Chair.
I mean, if you want an amendment to specify that, we got the sub late, you'd be welcome. We could carry this over to next week. I had a question while we're debating to do that.
It's a little overkill in one area and not the other. Yeah.
I also had a question about, you also wanted to display not only the Ten Commandments, but I think you called it a context.
Yes, let me look at that.
Content statement, which is also rather lengthy.
Let's see.
It was rather lengthy. I think it was pages 150, lines 150 through 175 in the original bill, and I really don't see the designation of it in the sub specifically.
Okay. 148 in the sub, or you're looking at the original bill? Yeah, in the original bill, it said they should be displayed in the following context.
And I don't see that context in the sub.
Okay. All right, then obviously that's
Then what I'm going to do at the is to carry this over at the call of the chair to work on the amendment and to work on the context statement. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, and we can, and I am too. I'm willing to have these amendments brought to the floor.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second, and if the one that's wanting the amendment, I would also like to find out where that content statement is and how long that is and what it is. Representative Baker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question. Within this bill, you do, I mean, somewhat lay out, I guess, the parameters of where the Ten Commandments is to be displayed. So this would apply both to K-12 as well as post-secondary and such. So you've got the State Department of Education and 8 that would somewhat be, I guess, the bodies, I guess, that you actually list there as adopting rules. What rules are, since you already have in the bill sort of where it's to be displayed, so what rules would they be adopting? Can you give me any
Well,
examples?
I'm assuming they would be adopting a rule. For example, we're not specifying it's got to be in the hallway or got to be in the library or what, room is the American history is taught in. So they would have to adopt the rules as to exactly where those would be placed.
But that's sort of unique to each school, so,
It would be.
so they couldn't actually adopt a rule specific for each institution. I'm talking about a K-12 school or whether it be a university, public university, 2-year, 4-year. So I'm a little confused. What type of rules would they be adopting?
My understanding, they would just be adopting rules of how they would place those and where they would be placed.
That's already in the bill.
It is, but it also states it could be a library or it could be a
which, once
hallway,
again, is in
whatever.
the bill. Right? Once again, that's in the bill, so I'm confused why there's a need for them to be adopting rules when it seems like everything's already in place according to the bill.
I'm not 100% sure how to answer that, Chairman Baker.
Okay, all right, thank you.
To me, it just gives the school a little bit of liberty,
Right.
without being strenuous to them.
Yeah, and to that extent, and once again, it seems like accountability, I don't know if that's sort of suggesting that because that's mentioned in the latter part of the bill, that there's sort of like accountability through the State Department or AIC, that is Alabama Commission on Higher Ed. But I don't know, because if they sort of, to Leader Daniels' point, if a school then doesn't come up with the funding through private sources, it's sort of like what happens?
Well, they don't get put up because it's no physical requirement for the school. The funding's got to be there before they could be actually implemented.
Okay, but there's a requirement, but it is required that it be there. But I know the bill does mention about that they are not.
And I'm open to amendments to fix these little problems, and that's perfectly fine. If we want to say something like this based on the funding, if we want to add that in there, I'm perfectly fine with that.
Representative Daniels.
When it's displayed, do you have an idea of size? Do you have an idea of material?
That's all in the bill.
So some of the classrooms change. So I didn't see that. What type of material are we talking?
Oh, let me see here.
Framed or poster.
Yeah, there is. It says here, framed document, historical truths of Americans' foundings. There's a size here. I think it's 11 by up here, 11 inches by 14 inches in size. The layout is signed of the framed document approved by the State Superintendent of Education.
Okay. So it's just small. Okay.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we're not going to take up a whole wall.
At this point in time, because we've got so many bills, I'm going to request that Representative DuBose withdraw your motion and let us have time to work on this bill and these thoughts.
So we'll draw that. We'll do the amendments and bring it back to the.
Okay, Representative DuBose withdraws her motion to give the bill a favorable report. Does Representative Estes withdraw his second? And we will carry this over to work on these details throughout the next week. So now we're going to call up House Bill 179.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. Committee, this is the bill that we passed through this committee twice last year.
So move.
Second.
Amen.
We have a motion to give favorable report by Representative Daniels and a second by Representative DuBose. Are there any questions about the chaplain bill? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? House
Great.
Bill 179 is given a favorable
Y'all didn't
report.
give me a chance to take up an offering, anything. Thank you, God.
Hey, save it for the Ten Commandments.
I'm going to call up House Bill 244. Representative Butler, welcome to Education Policy.
Thank you. Did I tell y'all you're my favorite committee? Okay, HB 244 is basically what we passed last year with a couple of tweaks to make it align with President Trump's executive order. the bill, prohibits discussion, classroom discussion, and classroom discussions and instruction on gender identity or sexual orientation. It also adds the pronouns and any sexual insignias.
And this is really moving it, if I remember correctly,
Pre-K to 12. Right.
It was K through 8, and now it's K through 12.
As I recall, last year we actually passed it committee K through 12, and on the floor we amended it to 8.
And so this goes back to that.
Correct. And it aligns with President Trump's order. We went pre-K to 12. On this.
Okay, and we did include pre-K. Anything else you'd like to say to the committee before we let's have the public hearing and say our questions to the end. Thank you, committee.
Right, thank you.
What were you going to say?
Well, I know the time's of essence, so I'll just wait.
Okay. Looking at my time, I'm going to give everyone 2 minutes to speak. Actually, we have two proponents and 10 opponents. And so, not to be unfair, but I'm going to give the proponents 2 minutes and I'm going to give the opponents 1 minute each, but let you all speak. That's the plan. So, if my clerk will help us with that. First, we're going to call Susan Stewart an opponent.
I'm Susan Stewart from Huntsville, District 10, a straight, cisgender, middle-class woman married 42 years. I'm the poster child for the kind of person you would think supports this bill. But I find HB 244 outrageous and un-American. HB 244's restrictions on speech are downright Orwellian and unconstitutional. Are you really going to tell a teacher who agrees with their student, the student's parents, the student's doctors about what is best for the student's safety and mental health? You're going to tell that teacher that they have to use words that they know will harm their student. You're actually going to tell a teacher that if students ask questions about a classmate with 2 mommies, they have to drag students aside for private conversations, creating an atmosphere of shame and confusion in their own classroom. If passed, this bill won't hold up in court like Florida's version that was gutted last year. Unfortunately, we're wasting time and money on culture war bills while Alabamians are begging you to address urgent, life-threatening problems such as food insecurity, housing costs, healthcare access. Please put an end to this today.
Thank you. Travis Jackson is an opponent.
Thank you. My name is Travis Jackson, a concerned Iraq War veteran residing in House District 88. I am in opposition to House Bill 244. House Bill 244 mirrors similar school regulations in the late 1980s during the HIV and AIDS crisis. In numerous states, censorship laws banned discussions regarding the subject of homosexuality within their sexual health study programs. I have questions. Will all or certain sexual orientations discussions be banned? What are the ramifications for educators supporting their students' chosen pronouns on school property? And according to this law proposal, what would define the words flag and insignia? I wish for the day that sponsor lawmakers will stop masking law proposals as harm reductions when in reality harm increase or emotional distress within these bills. Underlining sentences have caused disfranchised groups to live in fear. In the words of Sidney Harris, history repeats itself, but in such a cunning disguise that we never detect the resemblance until the damage is done. I strongly oppose House Bill 244.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. I also call up Alex Kim Young, an opponent.
All right. Hi, my name is Alex. I reside in House District 20. As we know, the Don't Say Gay legislation in Florida kicked off in 2022, became a model bill for other state legislators, including ours, and then as Susan mentioned, was subsequently gutted and rendered ineffective while wasting taxpayer time and dollars. I would also just suggest that we consider that this bill would render things such as a pride bumper sticker on a teacher's car impermissible, which would in turn violate a standing precedent of the 1991 Baker versus Glover. ruling, which stated that bumper stickers on your private property are protected by First Amendment speech, or to consider the 1969 ruling of Tinker versus Des Moines Independent School District, which said that students do have the right to free expression in schools, but if a teacher is therefore asked to take down student artwork depicting their family or something like that, they are now violating that student's First Amendment rights. Or the precedent of the 1967 case Kishin versus Board of Regents, which essentially declares these overbroad prohibitions unconstitutional. Don't waste our time and tax money. Block this bill.
Thank you, Ms. Shawn. Next, I'm going to call a proponent, and I believe it's Ted Halley.
Yes, ma'am. That's me.
Okay, I got it right.
Okay. I guess we're ready to go. Okay, I'm Ted Holly. I gave each of you all a handout. Hopefully you'll have time to look at it. It has information that I don't have time to go into today, but I'm kind of an odd bird. I'm what's called a detransitioner. I started suffering with gender identity disorder when I was 8 up to age 62. As far as transgender goes, I don't think there'll be anyone out here that can out-transgender me. I had my genitals removed. I had my face resculpted twice. I had a breast implant in and out. I had every follicle of hair on my face removed with over 300 hours. I took voice training. I lived this way for 12 years. So I know what it's like to be transgender. I know how hard it is. But it's important to know it is not a real fix for an internal problem. And I, also say that, you hear one side, oh, rah, it's good, welcome in. When you go out, guess what you do? You get a target on your back and hated. And I'm here to tell you that transgenderism, in my opinion and experience and scientific, it is not what they tell you it is. It's very, very dangerous. It's irreversible. Can I say that again? Irreversible. I don't have my male parts. I'll never be able to be married and be normal. And you do this to a child when they're young, and you're going to curse them the rest of their life because they can't make an adult decision, and we can't even do that till we're 25. So how in the world are we going to let teachers and counselors push this on young children that are vulnerable?
Thank you, Mr. Halley.
Thank you.
Next, I'll call Hunter Fuller, an opponent.
Hello, I'm Hunter Fuller from District 21, but I'm reading this for Dr. Allison. Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Marissa Allison. I'm from Huntsville, Alabama, and I oppose House Bill 244. Like many other LGBTQ families in the state, my wife and I decided that we would not send our child to public school, opting instead to homeschool him after the original Don't Say Gay bill was signed into Alabama law. Today, I wanted to offer a perspective on how laws like HB 244 negatively impact children from LGBTQ families. This bill will restrict the ability of public school students with LGBTQ parents and caretakers from being able to talk openly about their families, creating a hostile and dangerous educational environment for them. What this bill will undoubtedly do for children from families like ours is force a sense of shame and illegitimacy onto them by telling them that their families cannot be discussed for the entirety of their K-12 public education. I encourage you to think of all the ways you had to invoke your family throughout your education and recognize the ways that this law is inherently discriminatory to LGBTQ families. Please vote no on House Bill 244.
Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Next, I'll call Patricia Todd, an opponent. And it's good to see you, Representative
it's
Todd.
Good to be here. I've served on this committee for 4 years, so lovely to see you all, which was under different circumstances. But I am gay, and I am here to talk in opposition to the bill. I didn't become gay because I saw a pride flag or somebody taught me something. It was a feeling of the heart. And when you look at bills in Alabama that you all are dealing with, it's like the queer community's the enemy. I mean, we just want to live our lives. We want to pay our taxes, mow our grass, be with our families, raise our children without government interference. And I don't know any teacher in the state of Alabama that teaches anything about the LGBTQ community. If they do, it's 1 in 1,000. But we're trying to draft laws that that is based on one person's experience. We're here. We're not going away. We're going to continue to be loud and proud. And you all who served with me know that. And just because I served with you doesn't mean that you became gay either. So I'll just leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Todd. Next, I'll call Leah Billy Welburn, an opponent.
Hi, everyone. My name is Leah Billy Welburn. I'm a transgender non-binary resident of Auburn, Alabama. I'm coming to oppose this bill because it isn't what's best for all of our children in the state. The Trevor Project has done studies and shown that the risk of suicide among teens and youth goes down dramatically when they have a queer role model in their lives. Now, this may be a teacher who just has a flag up on their wall. It could be as simple as that, and it could save a life. If we had an epidemic of French students committing suicide the way we have transgender students committing suicide, and we wanted to ban a French flag being up on the wall, that doesn't do anything to the people who aren't from France, just like a trans flag doesn't do anything to the children who are not transgender. But it can save the life of a transgender student. It could, for that French student, give just a small moment of, I'm not alone in the world. Here's someone else like me. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, as an opponent, I call Allison Montgomery.
Hey there, I'm Allison Montgomery from Representative Rigsby's District 25. And yeah, like Patricia Todd, I wasn't made transgender or made to like other women through school instruction, through any amount of external influence. This is from the heart. This is the way God made me. And like, as a Christian person, I don't think that we should be trying to censor or diminish the great, beautiful diversity of God's creation. We're all different in different ways, and I don't think it's wrong to say that. Please vote no on this bill.
Thank you very much. Next, I'll call a proponent, Becky Garrettson.
Good afternoon. I'm Becky Garrettson. I'm the Executive Director for Eagle Forum of Alabama, and I'm here today to express our support for HB 244. This is a bill that ensures classroom instruction remains age-appropriate and focused on core educational subjects. Under current law, discussions on gender ideology and sexual orientation are restricted to Alabama's kindergarten through 5th grade, but this bill obviously expands these protections to cover all levels, ensuring that sensitive topics are addressed by families, not schools. This bill reinforces the idea that education should prioritize academic excellence, math, science, reading, and history, rather than ideological discussions that may not align with the parents' values. Additionally, HB 244 protects the integrity of the classroom by prohibiting teachers and school employees from displaying flags or insignia related to gender, identity, and sexual orientation. Schools should be places of learning, not activism, and this provision ensures that classrooms remain neutral and focused on education. Finally, HB 244 clarifies the use of pronouns in school, requiring teachers and staff to refer to students by pronouns consistent with their biological sex at birth. This prevents confusion and ensures school policies align with biological and legal standards. By passing HB 244, Alabama will strengthen parental rights, maintain educational integrity, and ensure that schools remain places of learning rather than ideological debate. I urge this body to support HB 244 and uphold the values of academic excellence, neutrality, and parental authority in education. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I'll call an opponent, June Marie. It looks like the pen was giving out at that point. Schmucker? Okay.
Hi, my name is June Schmoker. I'm from Huntsville, District 10, I believe. I'm here to speak against the current bill. I am a Huntsville native. daughter of an educator and niece to two more educators from St. Louis, I have been not exactly straight and not exactly cis my entire life. Two of my mothers are not exactly straight. They have been lesbian for as long as I can remember. This is not a new phenomena, and it is not a phenomena that goes away just because we try to wish it away and try to keep it away from people who feel discomfort at such things existing. And people feel discomfort at people like me existing, and I get used to it. But it is not something that a small child should ever have to get used to. The idea that people don't want them in their life, in sight. And I want a better world for people who I will never meet in my life. And that's why I'm opposing this bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, I'll call Aaron, and it looks like does snow. Like I said, the pen looks like it was going out. Thank you, Aaron.
Hello, I'm Aaron DeJager. I'm from District 10 in Huntsville, I believe, or 50, I think we said. I started transitioning at the beginning of this year, and I went to high school and middle school in one of the more liberal counties in upstate New York. Nobody ever talked about it there. Like, this is upstate New York next to Cornell, not mentioned at all. I didn't even think about it until this year. I don't really know why we would worry about this, especially here in Alabama, where it's talked about even less. I didn't even think about this. Nobody mentioned it. I knew it was happening, and it just didn't affect me until I started thinking about it earlier this year. So that's all I have to say. This feels like a waste of time and money and a restriction on classroom, which may cause many issues. Thank you.
Thank you. And last, who had their own pen, we call Piper Kite.
Hello, my name is Piper. Everything that I wanted to say has already been said, so I'm just going to keep it concise. I urge you to vote no on this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our public hearing. Representative Butler, do you have anything you want to add?
Well, just going to say that this is not a widespread problem, but I have heard from people all over the state that have sent me information, and I've talked to a student in my county talking about one teacher that cannot teach their curriculum without spending all their time focused on gender ideology. The sexualization of children is very prevalent, and it's got to stop. And this simply is in line with President Trump's executive order. And I would urge you guys to pass it as is.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Representative Gray.
So a few people mentioned that Florida tried this and it was basically struck down by the court. So
it was a settlement. It was
a settlement?
Yeah,
okay, I had a question about.
That's not accurate.
And then I see that you have public schools, but you don't have any other form of schooling. So why is it pertaining to public schools?
Well, it's where the problem has come that I've been brought to my attention.
That doesn't matter because it may have been one school in the entire state in a public school,
I
right?
assure you it is far more than one school.
Why is it just public? That's my question. Not because it was asked for. It happened in a public setting, a public school. Why is it just for public school only?
The people I've heard from are the ones actually paying the bills, paying the taxes, sending their students. COVID exposed a lot of stuff that was happening in the classroom that the parents were unaware of. And this is just one of those issues that really became prominent.
Representative Gidley.
Representative Butler, if I read this correctly, your primary focus for this is to prohibit those who are in that authority spot from using that authority spot to inflict their ideas.
On the classroom, they would be able to talk privately.
Okay.
To the counselor, to a teacher.
That doesn't restrict any child from being what they are or anything of that sort.
They maintain their First Amendment rights when they enter that school, and they carry those with them.
And to answer Representative a question up here, I think one reason why that the public school K-12 is so important is because that is during formative years.
Sure.
You get beyond that, you can begin to reason, what direction your life wants to go. But I just want to make that point clear and ask you that question, that this is about protecting those that would want to influence their ideas. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Representative DuBose.
Yes, thank you. I want to just clarify,
Yes, ma'am.
make sure I understand this. So this says this bill will limit classroom instruction regarding sexual orientation or gender identity. It will forbid classroom instruction. Will it forbid a private conversation?
No, ma'am, will not.
Okay. Will it forbid a child from being able to discuss his gender confusion with a nurse or counselor at the school?
Not at all.
Okay. So this is just regarding classroom
Right.
instruction.
Correct.
Okay.
When the students are assembled in the classroom, and they use that
Okay.
word carefully.
So a student could still have a conversation with a teacher.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Representative Butler? I want to thank you for presenting. I want to thank everybody for coming for the public hearing, and we'll consider this bill at a later date.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll call up House Bill 246. Representative Stodhagen.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, committee members. It is extremely hot in here. Are y'all trying to sweat us out, or what's going on here?
Little bit of purgatory right here.
All right, this bill, I didn't know it was a public hearing, so I'm going to give a brief description. I'm going to sit to the side. Hopefully we don't have 12 people speaking on it. Probably do. This bill would prohibit employees of public school and public institutions of higher education from using names and pronouns inconsistent with a student's legal name, biological sex, without written permission from the student's parents or guardian. That is it in a nutshell, and I'm going to step aside, Madam Chairman.
Thank you very much. We will begin the public hearing, and we'll have questions afterwards. I'm going to give everyone 1 minute at this point, both sides, because they're more equal at this point. And so first, I'm going to call up Paige Gant as an opponent.
Hello, my name is Dr. Paige Gant. I'm a constituent of District 53, Daniels District, and I taught math at the University of Huntsville, Alabama for about 8 years, and I'm here today to voice my opposition to HB 246. First of all, this bill is a solution in search of a problem. In my 8 years of teaching, I have not come across a single situation in which a lawsuit would have been appropriate against a university regarding what pronouns someone did or did not use. Secondly, this act would create a classroom environment where teachers could potentially risk legal action for performing basic duties such as handing back tests and assignments. Students do not have to put their legal name on tests and assignments, and often they don't. Teaching is a difficult job, and this would make it even more difficult, having to worry about lawsuits coming about. And I conclude that I oppose this bill because it doesn't really solve a problem that needs to be solved, and it places a burden on educators that is unnecessary. And if this bill does come to pass, I kind of fear it could spell the end of programs for which high school students attend college classes. So for those reasons, I urge the representatives to vote no on this bill. Thank you.
Alex Kimyon, an opponent.
Hi again, Alex Kimyon, District 20. I'm not that tall. I've been hearing a lot about parents' rights to determine their children's cultural and religious upbringing, including their education and medical care. I've been hearing very little about the rights of minors to self-determination or about the rights of parents to support their children's self-expression rather than stifle it. According to this bill, parents would have to grant permission for a teacher to use a name other than the student's legal one, yet the teacher is not obligated to use that name based on personal preference, therefore enforcing their will over the wishes of said parents if it suits that teacher. What did we just hear about authority not inflicting their personal beliefs on students? Let's also zoom out. Some of the employees covered under this bill are employees of the state, which could lead to a situation where our Attorney General, Steve Marshall, would have to argue against it. That would be interesting. There's also no boundary around context or school property. For example, if a college professor who respected the pronouns of a visiting high school student on a campus visit used those pronouns, technically they're now in violation of the law. And the employee institutions themselves, which in some circumstances are instrumentalities of the state of Alabama, would be liable. Once again, ham-fisted solution is in search of a non-existent problem. Block this bill.
Thank you. Next, a proponent, Ted Halley.
Okay, thank you again. During my 12 years when I lived transgender, I also was a transgender coach. I taught people how to transition. And one of the things I taught them was you have to be willing to pay the price. Not everyone will agree or accept you. And that's the thing I think this bill codifies, which we need to, is respect goes both ways. Just because you think my respect means I agree with you, it doesn't. Respect can mean you disagree. So I think it's important that we speak truth. And yes, it's hard, but I think those, in my mind, that go down this road need to realize not everyone accepts you. And they may call you Bill when you want to be called Susie. And I think that's a respect that goes both ways. On a personal note, my family called me by my first letter, T. But anyway, I think we need to codify this. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll call opponent Allison Montgomery. And while Allison comes forward, I want to let you know that the next committee chair has agreed to meet 30 minutes later. That doesn't mean we have to take the entire 30 minutes.
Understood.
Allison, thank you for coming back.
One unintended consequence of this bill is for kids that have names that originate in other languages and are difficult to pronounce. So a lot of these kids will go by a more common English name as a nickname, right? This bill would prevent teachers from calling them by their nickname because it is not a derivative thereof. Even with the permission slip carve-out, this would place an undue burden on teachers to keep track of who has the permission slip and who doesn't. Why make this their problem? Plus, this is selectively enforceable on the part of the teacher, which is a recipe for legal trouble for their schools. How are we supposed to expect teachers to keep track of this with everything else that they're responsible for? And this bill unsettlingly mentions the student's sex. What you're saying is you want teachers to know what is in each of these children's pants, when A, that's none of their business, and B, that's just creepy. There's a narrative about bills like these that they're trying to protect kids, but how does it protect kids to require teachers to know what genitals their students have? Only a certain type of person would want this, and we don't want to empower those types of people. Please block this bill.
Thank you. Next, we'll call Leah Billy Welburn, an opponent.
Hi again. Teachers and students are already capable of navigating how to address one another respectfully. As has been said before, this is a solution to a problem that doesn't exist. I can't imagine why we want to spend our time on this. Putting this burden on teachers just seems unkind. They already do hard enough jobs, and we need to be supporting them, not making them jump through hoops needlessly. When I attended college, my legal name was William Drummond Welburn V, and I went by Billy. I've always gone by Billy. I don't see the need, among all the other chaos of becoming a student, to have to write to mom and dad and say, hey, can you sign a permission slip so my teacher can call me Billy? Please don't burden students and teachers with this. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll call proponent John Eidsmoor.
John Eidsmoe, Senior Counsel for the Foundation for Moral Law. This is not a solution in search of a problem. At the Foundation, we have handled several cases in other states, Iowa, Ohio, and several others, involving students who have been disciplined for not using preferred pronouns, and teachers, one who was fired for that. And anyway, I believe that a student has a right to call himself by any pronoun he wants, but he doesn't have a right to force others to use that same pronoun, especially if it violates that person's religious or moral or medical or social or scientific beliefs. There are several cases that say that the First Amendment not only guarantees the right to say what you want to say, but also prohibits you from being forced to say what you don't want to say. Barnett versus West Virginia State Board of Education, Woolley versus Maynard, and several others like this. I would urge support for this bill.
Thank you. Next, we'll call June Marie Schmoker.
Hi, I'm June Marie Schmoker. I'm speaking in opposition to this bill, obviously. Some of the proponents said that respect goes both ways, and some of them stated that this is just a common sense bill. And that sorry, please forgive, I didn't prepare for this one. Penalizing them for calling Billy Susan or vice versa is an attack on their religious freedoms or their logical sense or what have you. I feel like if you have to make a religious argument or scientific argument to disrespect someone to their face, you are making a bad faith argument. You can be a God-fearing person or you can be whatever kind of person and still agree to call someone what they like to because it doesn't cost you anything. That's all I really have to say. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Next, I'll call Aaron DeJigger, an opponent.
Hello, once more, I'm Aaron DeJigger from District 50. Once more, I went to college here at UAH. I never experienced any situation in which this law would have been applicable, and I was never in class when this happened. I didn't hear about anything in which this applied. I would go as far to say that I believe this situation never occurred during my time at UAH, University of Alabama in Huntsville. So I believe this would put a lot of more cognitive burden on teachers who already have lots of things to worry about. That's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I'll call proponent Becky Garrettson.
Hello again. I just want to speak in support of this bill as it protects the rights of teachers, school employees, and students to uphold their personal beliefs without fear of punishment. No one should be forced to speak or act in a way that violates their conscience, especially within our schools and universities. So what was mentioned was if someone wants to be called a he and they're really a she, and that's their personal preference and they want to be called that, that's fine. But if they're making me have to call them that, and I know the truth, I know that they really are a man. I know they're an XY chromosome, they're a man, but they're forcing me to call them something that is not true. That is not right. And that's what this bill does, is it allows you to be able to speak truth and not have to lie to make someone feel better or for whatever reason. If they want to call themselves that, that's fine. They want to have a different name. But forcing someone and then they lose their job because they didn't lie and say that Susie was really a man or whatever. So bottom line, this is a good bill, and I hope that you'll support it.
Thank you. The last opponent is Piper Kite.
Hello, my name is Piper Kite. I'm speaking against this bill. I graduated from the University of Mississippi State, and again, this has never been an issue that me or any of my friends have ever had to face. Requiring a permission slip to call a student by a different name than their legal name is just unnecessary, and it puts an extra burden on the parents and the teachers at the university. So I urge you to vote against this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. And last, we have the last proponent, and that's Matt Sharp.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Matt Sharp. I'm senior counsel with Alliance Defending Freedom, where our firm has represented students and teachers alike who have been punished because they declined to use inaccurate names and pronouns. For example, we represent John Klug, a music teacher from Indiana who lost his job. He wanted to refer to students using their last name, an accommodation that worked for everyone. The school told him he couldn't and fired him simply because he didn't want to speak something that he knew to be untrue. We also represented a college professor, Nicholas Merriweather, in Ohio. He won his case at the Sixth Circuit after the university tried to force him to use inaccurate pronouns. And there, the Sixth Circuit explained that if a government had the power to force someone to speak something they know is true, it could mean that a university could require a pacifist to declare that war is just, a civil rights icon to declare or to condemn the freedom riders, a believer to deny the existence of God, or a Soviet emigre to address his students as comrades. Under our First Amendment, that cannot be. Words, including pronouns, have meanings. They carry a message, and for many Americans, that message is that we are created male and female, this bill would simply protect those rights. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our public hearing. Representative Stodhagen.
Yes, ma'am, I'm still here.
Do you have anything you'd like to add, or does
I would like to request, I've got, I'm assuming y'all don't want to vote on this today, so I've got a sub, but I really want to request to do it next time we come back.
Okay, if you'll get the sub to us this week, that would be helpful to give the committee. Is the sub different in a lot of ways? Do you want to talk about this at all, or do you want to just wait till next week to answer questions?
I was kind of wanting to, if y'all want me to, I can brief on it real quick.
Since you know you're going to have a sub, I suggest that we are going to carry this over anyway.
We're on the same page.
And so we will ask our questions about the sub and not one that would not be appropriate. So thank you for being here today, and thank you for waiting.
Thank you guys, and y'all, we got to get the air fixed in this room.
Thank you. You can probably do something about that, maybe. That concludes the Education Policy Committee. We're adjourned.
Now, unless that guy was unless he was